What's up, everybody? I hope you are fine. I hope you are doing well. I'm Olani Moloi, and this channel is all about African love. And if you like our content, I would appreciate if you can just smash that subscribe button, smash that like button like never before.
As an EFF member in good standing and with pride, I will still defend President Jacob Zuma, although critically. I will defend him. He was the only ANC president that brought nationalization, radical land reform back on the agenda. After years and years of the ANC selling out under President Thabo Mbeki and even under Nelson Mandela. I mean, after all, the gear neoliberal trajectory was embarked upon in the Mandela administration. President Zuma got the ANC government to get this country in BRICS, right? That's why he was the enemy that time. Not because Gupta and corruption and whatever. The Guptas were working with Mandela, they were working with Mbeki. It was never a problem then. They were even working with Helen Zille. There's a photo of that as well. So it was never a problem then, right? Because at that time, the ANC was pursuing a neoliberal economic trajectory. Zuma comes in, he tries to negate this trajectory, and suddenly, it's Gupta this and Gupta that, and corruption this and corruption that. I don't buy it. If you look at everywhere in the world, this is what they do. Once a leader comes in, whether they're actually corrupt or not is actually irrelevant. But when a popular leader comes in that fights for the people, the whole establishment, the media that's owned by the capitalists, these intellectuals bought and paid for by the capitalists, all of them, they attack those leaders, and suddenly they become the most corrupt people ever. Look,
I would like to begin by saying I don't want to force anyone into liking Jacob Zuma. I cannot stand and say, like Jacob Zuma if you feel like you don't like him. But there's one thing that I would like to show you. You should never let anyone control your mind. You should not let media or mainstream media or social media or anything to control your mind. You should not be like a computer. In other words, you have to be able to think by yourself. That's very important. I grew up watching news, and I was interested in everything that was being displayed. I was interested in everything that I saw back then when I was still young. And there was this time when I started like hearing about this thing of Jacob Zuma, Amstil, Shabir Sheikh, and all those other people, and I became interested in that particular case. So right now, when people talk about the case of Senzo Meyiwa and all these other cases, I understand them very well, because even me, myself, and I, back then, I was very interested in this arms deal case. I paid close attention to this case of Jacob Zuma. But there was something wrong. There was something fishy, because that's when I started realizing that the media was labeling this man as the most corrupt. And I started liking this most corrupt man, even though at that time I didn't have much of understanding. But I started following this case. I started watching this case all the time. But there's something that made me to dig deep, to say, find out what is the reason behind this. That's when I started realizing that the relationship between the president at that time and Mr. Jacob Zuma was very sour. Then I started digging deep. That's when I started distancing myself from media. I know that mainstream media can be dangerous. I'm not saying Jacob Zuma is innocent. I'm not saying you have to like him. But There's something that I've discovered and I don't know how can I explain it. But I was like, no, man, let me just distance myself. Even though I would watch the case, I would watch other things related to politics, but I started distancing myself because I didn't want to be programmed. I didn't want to be controlled. Because there's this other leader that I grew up liking as well, Mutsuku Peku of PAC. I grew up liking that man. But because of media, I started losing interest like in watching everything until Polokwane conference. Then when it comes to Polokwane conference, I was like, you know what? I want Jacob Zuma to win. Then fast forward, ANC became the most radical ANC that I've ever known. Many historians or few historians may agree with me that ANC of Jacob Zuma was the most radical. That is why I agree with this man. Why? Because he touched on nationalization. He touched on land reforms and all those things. Featuring who? Featuring Julius Malema. That is why I say that ANC at that time was the most radical fighting for people. But you know, if you're fighting against a system, man, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. That is why when I see him now leading Umkhonto Wesizwe, to me, it's not like maybe he wants to pay revenge or maybe he's still bitter. It has nothing to do with that. But to me, it's like this man wants to complete what he started back then in 2007 or 2008 or 2009. So he wants to fulfill that particular mission. He wants to achieve his goal. This is my understanding. Somebody else might have a different understanding to say this man is corrupt. But what I'm saying is that I'm not saying he's innocent. But you have to learn to think independently. Even on social media, everywhere you have to think independently. It doesn't mean if people comment bad about that person, you have to join them and start commenting bad about that particular individual. You have to analyze everything to the fullest. The life of Jacob Zuma is something else. That is why in my life, I've never seen someone going to court like this man until now, even today. But I would like to say you have to think independently. You should not allow anyone to make you to believe in a certain way without like fully scrutinizing that particular way or that particular programming. You have to analyze everything to the fullest. So I'm not saying Jacob Zuma is an angel. Jacob Zuma is innocent. Jacob Zuma is like this. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm like, you need to be very careful when it comes to news, when it comes to movies, when it comes to all these things. Because these things are good when it comes to programming. And they will program you to the point whereby you start hating people who are there to help you. I would appreciate if you can just smash that subscribe button, that like button like never before.